Right around my 76th birthday, I saw this.
At 75, both men and women fall off a cliff.
At 75.
At the population level, it's unmistakable what happens at the age of 75.
I thought, that's a book that I gotta buy. And I did. I bought it and I read it, and it's a good book. A little technical, a little more information than I actually needed. But the author, Dr. Peter Attia, if there were a confederation of really smart people, he'd be the president. He's a really smart guy. He was an engineer and a doctor. He's now a practicing physician. And his focus is old people. And he works in, he doesn't call himself geriatric specialist or anything like that. He's like reinventing a whole new way of looking at aging. And he wants to extend lifespan, for sure, but what he's focused on is not just expanding lifespan, he's looking to expand the quality of life. He calls it health span. And certainly that's something of interest to me and a lot of old people, right? So I read his book very carefully, and what I discovered I was really pleased about. One of the things, the aspects of aging well, with health and vitality, was a measure that he calls VO2. He has this very expensive clinic in Austin where rich people go and pay, and he does all these workups. But he wrote the book for folks like me who aren't going to go spend money on all of that. And I read the book, like I said, carefully. And one of his biggest measures is something he calls VO2 max. And what that is really is just what we used to call, high aerobic intensity. Exercising and infusing your cardio system, your cardiovascular system, with highly oxygenated blood from intense exercise. One of the things that really pleased me is many of the recommendations that Dr. Attia was making in his book to achieve, this better health span as we, go into our last decades of life, I'm already doing, and I've been doing them for a while. Now, what I'm going to talk about here is going to look a little bit like a flex. Well, maybe it is a little bit of a flex, but if you're the kind of person that really isn't, you'd rather sit on the couch and watch TV, and you're not into, really getting behind yourself and push and creating a little intensity in your life, if that's not something you want to do, I understand that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later in the video. You might want to go watch a Bald and Bankrupt video. Because I'm going to be talking about, the kind of intensity that I've been living for a very long time. As a matter of fact, if you're my age, if you're in your 70s, it would be really, really challenging to begin the kind of exercise routines that I do on a regular basis at my age. I've been doing them since I'm in my late 20s. I've been exercising vigorously since I'm in my late 20s. So, I have that advantage. But if you're like 40, 50, even 60, mid-60s, you can still get behind yourself and push and make this happen. You could probably do it too in your 70s under certain circumstances, but be careful, talk to doctors, all that good stuff. Because what I'm going to talk about is really just that, getting behind yourself and push to improve the quality of your retirement life if you choose, like me, to live an exciting retirement life. 15 years ago, I took a work contract in Singapore. It was a 4-month contract. Here I am, almost 60, over 15 years later, I'm still in Asia. I stayed in Singapore for 4 years, and then I retired. Singapore didn't have a visa for me, so I wound up here in Bangkok, where I've been living for 10 years now. And I'm enjoying myself. I've often said, and if you've watched my videos for a while, you know that I keep saying this, that the last 15 years of my life have been the best of what's been a good life. And the key element behind that is exercise, is the VO2 max. Dr. Attia was talking about, and he also talks about weightlifting. I lift weights as well. Here's my routine. I do 3, sometimes 4 times a week. I practice a style of yoga that's really hard, vigorous, and challenging. It's called the Bikram Yoga Series. It's a 90-minute session done in a hot room, ideally heated up to 104, 105 degrees. That's Fahrenheit. It would be about 40 degrees Celsius. And it's an intense workout. It challenges your strength, flexibility, and endurance. There are sections of that 90 minutes where anybody practicing it, myself included, gets your cardiovascular system cranking at peak beats per minute. And I do that 3 or 4 times a week. I've been practicing yoga since 1999. So I've been doing that a long time as well. But like I said, I've been in athletics since I'm about 27, 28 years old is when I really started doing athletic stuff regularly. A little while ago, let me talk about, if you didn't go watch Bald and Bankrupt, you're still not really that big into, doing the kinds of things that I'm recommending here. Come COVID, I had a yoga studio here in Bangkok, and I was teaching only 4 classes a week, semi-retired, didn't want to work too hard. And, I had a woman, Boo Cow, who worked for me. We had a personal relationship as well. But I had it all designed in my mind that she was more of an employee than a girlfriend. Now, COVID happened, and I stayed here and, continued to support Boo Cow and her family. But the business was gone, so I could no longer tell myself that fairy tale. I was in a real live relationship with this woman who valued the relationship. She's a young woman who knew the value of having an old expat with a good income to stick around and help take care of the family, which I did and still do to a certain degree. And she, pulled out all the stops in making that happen. She was very attentive, very caring, very sexy. She did all the right things to capture a guy like me, and it worked at first. My business was gone. I still have other income that I didn't have to worry about money. And I was here in Bangkok living with this loving family. She has 3 girls and a young boy as well. They're not that young anymore. They're all young adults now. But they were all in on the let's keep Charlie smiling routines, and they did. And I really care for these people too. We care for each other. It's more than just the transactional nature of the relationship that I'm talking about now. But that certainly was part of it, and it worked. And for the first time in my life, I started getting kind of lazy, or at least since my late 20s, I started getting lazy. I wasn't exercising much anymore, a little bit, but not very much. I was eating, feeding me all the time, and very quickly, I got fat and lazy, and I didn't like it. Now it's funny, as I was planning on coming out to shoot this video earlier today, Old Dog New Tricks, Paul in the Philippines, dropped a video, and he was talking about the value of sitting home on his couch and not being engaged in doing what he does, and how it's very beguiling to just have time to sit and reflect on who you are and who you want to be and what you want to do.
If you just stay home alone and do nothing, is that really what's going on? Are you not accomplishing anything at all? Or perhaps are you accomplishing something that's really relevant and really powerful in your own life?
And in Paul's case, hang out with a loving wife. I met Paul. I spent time with him, I guess about 1.5 years ago. I was writing an article about digital stuff in the Philippines, and I included him in on it. As a matter of fact, he was a major part of the article. And he sat with me for about 2 hours in the hotel I was staying. And I grew to like the man very much. He's a very sincere guy. What you see is what you get when you watch his videos. I found him to be authentic and sincere, and he really loves his wife. He really does. The whole time we were talking, he kept thinking about things that he might want to come back to that hotel and do in the pool with his wife and his friends. And that, so he has a very caring relationship with, I think her name is Mary. Not sure. She goes by Baby May. And they take care of each other. That's a very beguiling state, and I found myself in it, and I was getting fat and lazy, and even thinking to myself, well, this is just the way it's going to be in my waning years. I didn't like it. I'm used to living a vigorous, engaged lifestyle, I'm much more happy at it. Now, you know, the vagaries of relationships have Buakaw and I living separately now. We're still engaged to a certain degree with each other in the family. Like I said, we do care for each other, but she's no longer my girlfriend. And I'm back on my own. And what happened out of that is I got back into my intense workout routines, and it's been such a dividend for me. Peter Attia, if you like reading, read his book. He's all over the internet. You know, you just type in Dr. Peter Attia into a search engine, and a lot of stuff pops up. I guess he's promoting his book. But he's done some good work here. And some of the things, you know, the two major measurements that he talked about in his book and in some of the videos that I've watched were intense aerobic exercise and weightlifting. Weightlifting for building muscle mass and strength and grip strength. He says that's a very amazing measure for predicting good outcomes in your waning years, is making all those things work. And that takes work. It takes work, it takes discipline, and diet. You gotta do diet as well. I used to get away with, back in the day, just exercising a lot, and that kept my weight down. Well, once I got past 65, that doesn't work anymore. I have to eat intelligently as well, which I do. I also have gout issues, so I have to watch what I eat around that also. So that made it a little bit easier, because if I go off diet, I get gout, and gout hurts. So I have this, pain versus eating well kind of conditioning that helps me along when I'm sticking to my diets. But yeah, if you want to stay fit and slim and have strength, flexibility, balance, endurance, strength, you got to do the work. Do you have to do Bikram yoga and weightlifting? Well, the weightlifting, Dr. Attia thinks that that's a yes. Bikram yoga, no. There's plenty of different ways to exercise and achieve a high level of aerobic exercise. I love the Bikram series. It sings my song. I know a lot of Bikram yoga teachers around the world, dozens and dozens of them. I've worked with them, I've practiced with them, I've taught them. Nikki's one of the best, without a doubt. She's changed the series a little bit, actually made it harder. And she's not working right now. She's moving her studio, so her studio isn't open right now, but she is going to open again mid-January. So if you are here in Bangkok and you're looking to introduce yourself to a Bikram yoga class, I highly recommend Nikki Jippy. I'll put a link to her Facebook page down in the description or the comments, depending on what platform you're watching this from. So yeah, that's it. Get behind yourself and push. If you want to be like me, if you're younger, I look at my statistics here. I have a lot of young people, young meaning under 60 people, looking at my videos, and you're thinking about, hey, down the road, I want to have a really good retirement. You might want to follow the advice of Dr. Attia, and again, I'm not doing this to flex. I'm doing it to hold up a model, to let you know that it can be done. The past 15 years have been the best of a good life, and I'm still having fun at 76. So yeah, in order to do that, you got to stay fit. Get out there, get behind yourself, and push. Thanks for watching.